Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Rocky Top Insider Diamond Pass here on the Sunday, March 9th edition. I'm your host, Jack Foster, joined alongside Ryan Schumpert, as always, coming at you after another series sweep for Tennessee baseball. The Vols remain undefeated on the season, now 16-0. That's the best start in program history. So a little bit of history on a Sunday here in Knoxville. Also was some history on a Friday, which we will certainly get into. An eventful weekend as the Vols sweep the Bonnies, outscore them 36-3 on the weekend. More dominance from D1 Baseball's number 2 program in the country, number 1 program in the country, according to every other poll. But regardless, Ryan, another great weekend to talk about here. And first, how you doing, though?
I'm doing well. I mean, long time no see, all of a couple hours,
Right?
but
Yeah.
no, another, relatively eventful weekend, eventful week, I guess you could say, but getting good now. SEC play gets going on next weekend. I think Florida's been one of the better teams in the SEC to start. Obviously, some of it's a little bit difficult to tell, but should be a really fun series next weekend at Lindsey Nelson Stadium, and should be fun to get going.
Yeah, it was also an eventful midweek prior to the same Bonaventure series. You could argue,
Yeah.
obviously Oklahoma State, Arizona were the two best teams Tennessee's played all year. Those were the highest risk of a loss, but things got a little close there for a minute on Tuesday evening against Radford. It was actually tied 9-9 in the 5th inning, but Tennessee would go on to score 11 in the 7th and run roll Radford, an electric Blake Grimmer walk-off grand slam, which, believe it or not, was only the first of 2 walk-off run roll grand slams this week. Crazy what Tennessee baseball is continuing to do this season. But Ryan, I want to start with the pitching, as we've been doing here on the Sunday night recap pods of the weekend. And where else to start than the no-hitter on Friday night? We can get into some injury notes here after we talk about the weekend itself. But Friday, 4th combined no-hitter in program history, 9th overall. 5 arms accomplished the feat for Tennessee. It was a relatively uncompetitive game, but it was definitely led by Liam Doyle, who went 5 2/3, a season-long outing for the junior. Bookended his outing with walks to the same batter, actually. Jace Tarnish, the Bonnie's leadoff guy, the first 2 games. Started the game off with a walk, retired 17 straight, put 13 strikeouts in that 17 stretch as well. Walked Tarnish again in the 6th, and then was relieved there for Tanner Franklin. But Liam Doyle could argue it's his best outing of the season and career. I think it was the best he's looked. Tony was saying that maybe it was definitely against Oklahoma State, looked really good, but Liam Doyle continues to shove, and what a game from Tennessee just to do this no hitter. I mean, it was, this obviously doesn't happen often. First combined no hitter since 2000, first of any kind since 02.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one to miss, as I did. As at Troy, former Maryville Daily Times writer, covered baseball.
I
I don't know,
said
I've been
this.
on.
Yeah, I
Go
said this
ahead.
to just real quick. I said this to baseball SID Sean Barrows that, of course, Troy took Ryan and Mike away from seeing
Yeah,
the combined no hitter tonight. Like only Troy could do this.
yeah, no, it felt very fitting because Troy was known for some of his infamous terrible takes about Tennessee baseball too. So uh, that added, I think, an extra element of funniness to it, or humor to it, I guess I should say. But yeah, I think just to start with Doyle, it felt like it was, he kind of cap ended this preseason or this pre-conference play, started the season with, like you said, probably his best outing. And it was just like, all right, he was pretty close to perfect in these first 4 weeks of the season. And now the challenge gets greater as SEC play begins. But man, I mean, he could not have built up his own hype anymore with how well he pitched this first month of the season. And I think, and I don't have it right here in front of me, but I think he threw over 100 pitches on
104.
Friday. Yeah, so I think that's like a really, kind of to that point. There's the buildup, and he's throwing more and more. Well, all right, he just threw over 100 on Friday. He should be completely ready to go on Saturday. And yeah, I think there's an element. Obviously, a lone no hitter to me is always more impressive than a combined no hitter, but
For sure.
I think there's an extent where like how many pitchers Tennessee threw almost made it more impressive. Whereas, Tanner Franklin, just like you said, came in and just got one out. Tanner Franklin had thrown 2 and a third, and then like Nate Snead came in and pitched the 9th inning, it would still be really impressive. But maybe a little bit less surprising where Tennessee threw a bunch of different guys and maybe some arms that were a little bit lower on the totem pole. And they were, what's that?
And I was just going to say, definitely. I mean, you had a guy in Braden May who made his college
Yeah.
debut and
Yeah.
put together a 1-2-3 inning.
And I think that's, what's impressive to see is guys like that where, and I think it's almost kind of a good move by Tony in a way where, Nate Snead, the pressure of a combined no-hitter is not going to bother Nate Snead. He's pitched in a bunch of huge moments, but for a younger guy who hasn't pitched in a bunch of big opportunities and probably won't pitch in a bunch of big opportunities this season, trying to hold together a combined no-hitter in the late innings is a good bit of pressure. So I think that aspect of who did it after Doyle and the number of people that were a part of that performance makes it pretty impressive, or all the more impressive for it being a 5-pitcher combined no-hitter.
Yeah, I agree. And Michael Sharman too, who got who pitched the last inning, did record a 1-2-3 inning himself. He's arguably been Tennessee's, I don't want to say worst because no arm has really been bad, but maybe shakiest and most inconsistent, I don't know, pitcher. I mean, he's been hit or miss, right? And he was still able to come in and finish it off there in the 9th. And only 3 base runners for St. Bonaventure all game long. The 2 walks that Doyle gave up, Arvidsson gave up one himself. No other base runners on the night. So almost as perfect as you can get for the Tennessee pitching staff. In a 9-inning game too, a lot of the no-hitters, you go back and look at Tennessee's history, are going to be 7 innings, especially, in the 70s and 80s. This should have been a 7-inning game had St. Bonaventure agreed to the run rule. Tennessee would have ruled them in the middle of 7th inning, but did not in this game, and therefore was able to be a 9-inning no-hitter. So historic night Friday in LNS, and Liam Doyle, I think, was the story. Just some numbers here I'm going to throw at you. I'll go slow as they can be a little difficult to digest, but 4 starts into Liam Doyle's 2025 season. He has 0.44 ERA, 0.54 WHIP. That's impressive as it is, but the really just eye-opening stats from Doyle. He's averaging just under 12 Ks a game, 11.75 to be exact. If you span that across the regular season, Liam Doyle is projected to start 14 games in the regular season. That would be 164 and a half strikeouts just in the regular season. That would smash Tennessee's single season record, which is currently held by Luke Hochevar in the 2005 season. Hochevar started 19 games that year. Give Doyle 19 games at his current pace, that's 223 strikeouts. Obviously an absurd pace. I've said this stat a couple of times already. He's not going to keep it, but I mean, it's still continuing almost a month into the season, so it's really impressive. 77% of the outs, 61 outs Doyle has recorded this year are via strikeout. 47 out of 61. His K per 9 is 21 strikeouts. He's only given up 1 earned run. It was a solo homer by Sanford. I mean, 6 hits, Ryan. It's like you said, you can throw around the word perfect, but it literally is almost perfect.
Yeah. No, completely absurd. Frankly, those numbers. Like, if a college pitcher gets 100 strikeouts in the season, that feels like a really good season and a really good strikeout season. I'd be curious, did any Tennessee pitcher get 100 strikeouts last season? Maybe AJ Causey?
Maybe Causey. Yeah.
He would be the only one. And I kind of don't think he did. And Tennessee played until the very final day of the season.
73 games they played.
Yeah, played basically as many games as you could possibly play.
So Causey did get 100. He had 125.
Okay.
So
okay.
Did anybody else? No. Beam had 99.
Okay, just one shy. So
2023, really good season, obviously, for Tennessee staff. Two guys got it, Dolander and Burns, 120 and 114 respectively.
Yeah, so I mean that's a good, Halverson then, he's a guy I thought might have gotten to 100 with what a good year he had in 23. So yeah, I mean it's ridiculous, and I'm sure it won't continue quite at this pace, but what he did against Oklahoma State, I think, does show you that it's probably pretty feasible that he continues to strike out batters at a really, really high rate, even if it's not whatever it was, 11.75, I think is what you said, per outing. Even if it's not at that rate, it's probably not going to drop off a whole lot.
I am curious to see because his pitch count's always going to creep up quicker than normal. He's a strikeout guy, and he hasn't. If you could criticize one thing about Doyle's season so far, it's that he hasn't been just overly dominant early. Like a lot of first innings, the counts are getting deep. He's throwing 20 pitch first innings sometimes, and that's not great for the longevity of your outing. And obviously, Tennessee hasn't left Doyle in there when facing any adversity in the fourth, fifth inning because it's the lack of competition and the fact that the pitching staff is so deep. That I think is going to be something that continues. I don't know how much we see Doyle, try to gut through some adversity in the middle of a game because of the endless amount of arms Tennessee's going to have behind him. And you can use a bridge guy like a Loy, you can go straight to Franklin, you can go Franklin then Snead, right? Like there's so many combinations you can do and still be fine and not totally mess up your whole weekend plan. So I think the point of that is saying that I think Doyle's efficiency with the strikeouts and the numbers, while it won't stay the same pace, I don't know if it'll go off that much because I don't know how many innings he's going to pitch this year. Like I don't know how much trouble he's going to actually get into, and he's going to stay in that hyper efficient mode potentially, especially with the ERA.
It's a little bit of a chicken and the egg situation where he's not going to get super deep in the games because he strikes out a ton of batters and he's just going to be throw a lot of pitches. And then the reverse of that is kind of what you're saying, where that rate probably will stay super high because he's not going to pitch a ton of innings. Like it kind of feels like right now, like 7 innings is probably like the max that he could get to in a start. I mean, it obviously could change a little bit, but that's generally the feel. So I think you're right about that it's going to continue to be at a pretty incredible pace. And if it, could kind of go the other way too. If there's a game where he doesn't have a ton of strikeouts, but he's still effective, that's where he could go further in the game, in a game where he might end up having less strikeouts.
Yeah, exactly. A really efficient Drew Beam-esque outing could actually hurt his strikeout rate.
Yes, exactly.
But I don't think that'll happen given what we've seen and just the type of pitcher he is. Anyway, yeah. So easy to really digest what happened Friday. Tennessee had 2 5-run innings. Offense was found a couple of times. Let me see how many homers they had. I think they hit 4 on Friday. Yeah, four homers on Friday, just very casually. It wasn't even a great offensive day, it felt like. But, Dalton Bargo was a story of the night, and we'll get into him big time when we, talk about what Tennessee did at the plate this weekend. But shifting gears to Saturday, another start from Marcus Phillips that I thought was really solid. And like Doyle, I think you could argue it was Phillips' best start of the season. Phillips certainly didn't echo that in post-game media. He said he actually didn't feel great out there. He didn't feel like he had his best stuff, but no walks for Phillips on the outing. 5 2/3. That's a career-long start. Actually earned his first win in a Tennessee uniform. Fun stat of the game as well. So with Phillips being a guy where his Achilles heel, if you will, is going to be a lack of command at times and walking guys. To have a walk-free outing in a career-long outing, I thought was really impressive. And I think you could definitely argue it was the best he's been all season. Only run he gave up was a leadoff homer to start the game. So after that, settled in really nicely. And, when Phillips gets in control and gets on a roll, you've really seen him be very dominant this year.
It's that's really interesting because I went back and listened to Tony, but I hadn't gone back and listened to Phillips on Saturday, and that he did say he didn't feel like he was at his best or didn't have his best stuff because, I mean, just on paper, I was at basketball, but just on paper, I thought it was his best outing of the season because of what you said, the no walks. Like that's the number I'm looking for anytime I look at a Marcus Phillips line, because Saturday there's been baseball every single game, so I've been able to watch some of him, but less than the others. Tennessee's other pitchers, or just in general, the Saturday game is the least I've been able to watch this season to this point. The first thing I look at for Marcus Phillips is, because I usually I kind of know what happened in the game, so I know he's had he hasn't given up a bunch of runs or anything. I go and look at the walks, and I go look at the total pitches and the number of strikes he threw. So those are the two things I look at. And the walks was obviously really impressive, and the strikes wasn't just incredible, but it was good. It was about as good as it's been to this point in the season, I feel like. So I felt like it feels like he's getting better with a lot of his outings as he gets more and more comfortable as a starter. And you've been on top of it a couple times. I guess it was the Sanford game where he got in and retired about 10 straight in the middle of that outing. It feels like he's found a way to get into a little bit of a rhythm. Again, not quite the middle innings, but like the second through fourth, second through fifth innings. It feels like he's been really, really good this season. And again, he's really solidified himself as that Saturday starter here in a non-conference play, which I'm sure was kind of goal number one for him once he got that job to start the season.
Yeah, I mean, after that leadoff homer, retires the next three, then a 1-2-3 inning in the second, works around an error in the third, so it wasn't even his fault a runner reach. It was a bad play by Curley. A 1-2-3 inning in the fourth. So he was basically in total control, basically perfect after that leadoff homer. Gave up a 1-out double in the fifth he was able to work around, and then was pulled after a 2-out double in the sixth. So, two doubles that weren't very threatening. It felt like at the time, just one hit innings there in the fifth and the sixth. Worked around an error, like I said, and the leadoff homer was pretty much it, is what I'm saying, for his whole outing. Like that was the only blemish in my opinion. And the no walks is the most impressive thing, as we've discussed. So a shortened game for Tennessee on Saturday. Nate Snead comes in, only throws 10 pitches to get 4 outs, had an 8-pitch inning in the seventh with a trio of ground outs. So, just really efficient stuff from Nate Snead. Easy appearance for him. Phillips was obviously the story on a mound, and not really a day that we need to really talk about a lot. Just a 11-1 win for Tennessee, run rule win. I think Manny again was the story at the plate on this game, but on the mound, it's just Phillips and Doyle really going back to Friday's game too, not peaking, but pitching their best at the right time with Florida right around the corner.
Building into SEC play. It feels like they've gotten better, and obviously they've pitched more and longer outings too. Funniest part of Saturday's game is definitely the video Tennessee tweeted out of Manny's walk-off, and it's whoever was shooting it's like in the third base camera well, and you just see Tony Vitello just disgusted as he hits it because it was a grand slam, like you said, 11-1. So a grand slam that they needed all 4 runs to get to put in the run rule, and Tony Vitello, who hates the run rule, you could just see how upset he was. I think he just threw his arms up. It's like you got to be kidding me.
It wasn't over crazily animated, but he just was like, well, there it goes. The game's over. Like, it was just dejection almost from Tony. Like, unbelievable. And it was weird too, because we get to the ballpark Friday and the word was St. Bonaventure said no to the run rule Friday and Saturday, but yes, Sunday. So the original word was no run rule first 2 games. Yes, on Sunday, obviously, because figured they'll run out of pitching. But then we get Saturday, and right before first pitch, it's, hey, run rule is back on for today. So there was word it could the crew, the umpire crew, was having an influence in that. It's not their call, obviously, but they wanted it to happen. And I guess Bonaventure coach was just like, yeah, sure. At the end, imagine that's how it went down. But yeah, very strange that it was suddenly agreed upon literally minutes before first pitch. And then, of course, Tennessee was able to finish it off. Sunday, Tennessee finished off the series. Another 10 or more run win, another run rule win, 13-2 in 7 innings. Tennessee gets it done. Ryan, you were in the building for this one today. A Johnny Holstaff approach from Tennessee's pitching staff. You name him, he threw today. 9 arms, see time on the mound, I guess, except A.J. Russell, who we thought might throw today. But 9 arms get time. Tanner Franklin gets to start his first in Tennessee uniform. Pretty uneventful outings all across the board, in my opinion. Ryan Combs, probably the worst he's been, but was able to work around a little bit of trouble. Austin Hundley stranded the bases loaded after working himself into some trouble. Thought that was impressive. He continues to be a guy that I think does well when the pressure's up a little bit. It seems like a pretty resilient arm for Tennessee this year. I think Tanner Wiggins was the worst of the group. He threw 14 balls, on 15 total pitches. So that was definitely the worst part of today from a pitching standpoint for Tennessee. Freshman Tegan Coons gets the win, was the second pitcher out of the pen for Tennessee today. Did you have any big takeaways from Tennessee's pitching performance in a series sweeping win on Sunday?
I think one you saw, I mean, you mentioned it with the Johnny Holstaff, like Tony Vitello was really trying to maximize those innings
Yep.
and maximize opportunities for everybody. And I mean, just a point on the whole of the week, Tennessee played 5 games and they won all 5 by double-digit runs. 2 of the games, like you said, didn't have the run rule in effect. But I mean, that just shows what Tennessee's working with at this point. But the 3 guys I would point out, mostly because they came in / got themselves in a little bit dicey spots. Dylan Loy did a lot of what we saw from him last weekend. Comes in with a runner on second, strikes out 2 batters, day over. Just money, efficient, got out of that.
Herbie.
Exactly. And then Austin Hundley, he came in with 1 on and nobody out. He got the first batter out. Then he surrendered 2 walks. So he wasn't all of his own making, but a little bit of his own making. And had the bases loaded with 1 out. Gets shallow fly out to left field and then fly out to center field to get out of it. So that was impressive. And then Braden Krenzel, who came in after Tanner Wiggins, which I believe it was the bases loaded and 2 outs, if I'm not mistaken. So he kind of comes in a high leverage moment, and maybe not the highest leverage moment, but still, not a clean spot. You got to be efficient to start, and he got that out and got out of the inning, and that was kind of reminiscent. He pitched, I believe it was the Sunday at the Pizza Series, in a very big spot at the end of the game, and was really good there, and helps his team get the win. So those were kind of the 3 that stood out, mostly because they were either in jams or a little bit more high leverage spots. And I will say to Hundley's point, I mean, the game was 7-2 in like the 6th inning at that point. So, he gives up a ball in the gap and 3-run score. All right, you got a game. It's 7-5. So,
for sure.
While it was another blowout win, another run rule win for Tennessee, Hundley, and to a lesser extent Loy, the game felt still relatively up in the air, or at least could have gotten interesting real quick if those guys hadn't done what they had done and gotten out of some jams.
Yeah, that's the kind of guys they've been too. Like, I think Hundley got a clean inning today for the first time, right? He actually came in after a leadoff walk. Yep. So yeah, he still, every time he's made an appearance this year, he's entered the game with runners on. So that's just a guy Tennessee likes in some higher leverage spots. And I said Ryan Combs was probably the worst he's been. That's true, definitely on paper. But, if you go back and watch, it was a lot of just softly hit singles that just kind of found gaps. So it wasn't like he was just getting barreled up. He got 2 strikeouts actually to strand a pair in the 5th inning after giving up a trio of singles. So struck out the side around 3 singles that inning. So it wasn't
soft hit. One was like a perfectly hit and run. Like it would have been a soft liner to the second baseman if it wasn't a hit and run. And I guess it was Keelan was still in at that point, was covering second. So it didn't feel like he got barreled up a ton. A little bit of bad luck and some good bat on ball skills from the Bonnies.
Yeah. You mentioned Tennessee and just games scoring 10 plus runs. This season, 11 of Tennessee's 16 games, the Vols have scored 10 or more runs. 11 of 16. That's crazy. All of those 11 games, Tennessee has won by 10 or more runs. So every time they score 10 or more, they win by 10 or more. And they've run ruled their opponent 8 times. That's half of the times. And they would have Xavier. They would have the Bonnies this weekend. So that's 2 they could have done that the opponent didn't agree to it. So
Radford's like the only team the only team that scored more than like 4 runs in a game?
Yep. UNC Asheville had the most runs against Tennessee with 4 in a 29-4 ball game before Radford scored 9 last Tuesday. So literally it's the only bad game Tennessee's had from a pitching standpoint.
And they still run ruled
their opponent. They still run ruled them and won by 13 runs. It's crazy. I'm telling you, it's absurd. I mean, I don't care about the lack of competition. The numbers are
Yeah,
unbelievable.
no, it's what we've seen, and obviously you want to see it, and it matters more to do it against SEC teams. But it's what we saw last year. It's what we saw in 22, where like they weren't just winning all these games; they were beating the brakes off teams in all
Yep,
these games, and that wasn't the case in 23. 23 was a lot more competitive games. They were not.
definitely.
The pitching was good, even though it wasn't really great until the back half of that season, when some guys kind of turned the corner. But the hitting certainly was not like what it's been to this point. And even 21 when they were good early, even 20 when they were really good early, they had some hiccups early in the season. And I do think they played tougher non-conference schedules that year, but still, this has been very 22 and 24-esque of what Tennessee's done in the pre-conference slate.
Guess no hiccups is what happens when you're off to a program best start, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Obviously. Shifting gears to the offensive side of things, want more great numbers? Tennessee's got them there too. 49 homers in 16 games. That's averaging over 3 blasts a game. That's crazy. Some more grand slams happened this week. Tennessee's up to 8 on the season. They had 2 walk-off run rule grand slams this week. One from Blake Grimmer on Tuesday, one from Manny Marin on Saturday. 8 grand slams for Tennessee in 16 games. Wow. And that's 6 away from the NCAA record. So obviously on pace to shatter that. Of course, competition picks up. I think it'll end up being pretty close. If Tennessee does it, I would pick them to break the record. But, I wouldn't put just a ton of money on it, as it is hard to hit grand slams against SEC teams. But it's still absurd, the grand slam numbers and the homer numbers. Ryan, before we get into individual stuff, just the power is still alive and well this year for this Tennessee team.
Apologies to whoever posted it on X or tweeted it, 'cause I really can't remember who it was, but I saw the stat and it was this morning, so it was before the Sunday game. Tennessee, through the first 15 games of the season, had hit more home runs than Tennessee hit in Tony's first season in 2018, which is just bonkers. I mean, it's insane. And and obviously Serrano played small ball, but man, there were some Serrano years where they hit like 20 home runs in seasons, and Tennessee's out here hitting 3 a game through the first 16 games. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's utterly ridiculous. And to Jack, and maybe I'm skewed by this week, but these games were Tennessee's run ruling teams, and obviously some of them they've already had to run rule, so they've played the top of the 7th inning. But in games when Tennessee's run ruled opponents and they've gotten to run rule on offense, I swear it's a home run every time. They're not run ruling teams on walk off run rule singles or sack flies. They're all home runs, and obviously 2 of them grand slams. So it's just ridiculous. The power numbers that Tennessee's putting up. We talked about it last week. The power numbers were even better in an MLB ballpark in Texas. So it's not a Lindsey Nelson Stadium thing, but
nope.
Yeah, I mean, it's just you just kind of throw your hands up. I mean, what can you say?
Yeah, I mean, like Saturday's game was kind of close. Phillips and Snead were dominating, but Tennessee's offense, it felt like the worst it'd been all week. And 7-1 in the 7th inning. Bonnie's reliever loads the bases like that. I'm talking a couple walks, maybe a hit by pitch, quick hit. And I look at our friend Eric Kane, and I'm like, well, here it comes. Like, no outs, bases loaded. I didn't even know who was up to bat. It was Manny. In reality, I'd have probably been like, maybe not here, because Manny, he's not really a power guy. But it's just like, here it comes. And then what do you know? It may have been literally the first pitch of the at bat. I'll have to find it in just a second. It was the second pitch of the at bat. Just a freaking no doubt grand slam walk off to left field. Like, of course, that's what happens, right? And the game's just immediately over.
Well, you said it too on Tuesday night when we were sitting there, and I think Tennessee scored. How many did they need to get to run rule in the 7th? Do you remember?
Well, they won by 13. They scored 11, so that would have been 8 they needed.
That's right. They needed 8. So I think Dean Curley came to the plate with the bases loaded. Tennessee had not scored a run yet in the inning, and you were like, just 2 grand slams, and they got it. And Dean Curley walked, so that was the first run. And then I guess it was Keelan after him hit a grand slam.
No, Fisher hit it. So Keelan either.
So maybe I guess it was probably Inslee, not Curley, that I was thinking of. Inslee was up.
Okay.
I'm assuming. I was thinking.
No, Curley. Yeah.
I mean, it was the
That
batter
would make
before
sense.
Fisher hit it.
Okay.
So, and yeah, I mean, you made the joke. It's 2 grand slams and a couple pitching
What do you
changes,
know?
and probably like 10 minutes later, two grand slams and a couple more runs that mixed in there for good measure. And Tennessee wins and run roll, like you said, when it was a 1-run game. It was a tie game in the 5th inning.
Yeah.
And then they still win. They still run roll in 7.
You're right. This is so brutal, by the way. Bottom of the 7th for Tennessee, just for fun against Radford. It was leadoff single, back-to-back walks to load the bases, then a pitching change. This dude comes in, gives an RBI walk to Inslee, and it's like, okay, I got to throw it in the zone now. And then Fisher mashes one out on a freaking grand slam. Then that dude's night is over. It's like, well, thanks for playing, pal. RBI walk and then a grand slam, and you're done. Yeah, it's really tough. And then, of course, you had like an RBI triple and then the Grimmer walk-off later in the inning. And even today, like, it's bottom of the 7th today, and I told you, I looked over, I'm like,
No,
get ready.
it felt like a no-brainer. Like, I was
Yeah.
behind on getting the game story ready, and there was like no doubt in my mind that the game was going to end in the 7th inning. Especially
Yes.
when I can't remember who it was to lead off the inning, but they walked.
Abernathy walked.
Abernathy, that's right. And it was just like, yeah, no, that's
11-2, you only need one run.
he's gonna
Lawless
score. Like,
mashes one out.
It's just like,
Over.
hopefully this takes a couple more at bats before it happens. But
Nope.
yeah, no, it felt absolute no doubt. Yeah, just ridiculous. And poor Ariel. Ariel was on deck both on Saturday and on Sunday when the run rule, the home runs that enacted the run rule got hit. So he was robbed of 2 at bats this weekend.
Yeah, that is unfortunate. Talking about individual stuff for Tennessee, the story of the weekend, really 2 guys who had very similar numbers are Dalton Bargo and Manny Marin. Bargo not as much of a consistent player as Marin's been this season, so bigger weekend for him to go 4 for 8 at the plate. Had 2 homers. Really big night on Friday, starting at third base with Marin dealing with a little bit of an issue with his nose after sliding into an Arizona player last weekend in Houston. So Bargo takes advantage of his opportunity Friday, gets a left field start on Saturday and Sunday, so rewarded for what he's been doing. Definitely his best weekend at the plate. And we had talked about Bargo. He had such a huge night against UNC Asheville that it kind of inflated his numbers on the season, which weren't even that great to begin with. So he really had struggled all year. So really big weekend for him to do this. Like I said, 2 homers and a double on the weekend, 4 for 8, 11 total bases. Just definitely something Bargo needed. And, it was really good for Tennessee.
It was, and I think, like you said, he needed it. Especially, I mean, this is the last weekend before SEC play starts, and it felt like he really asserted himself and said he's going to be part of the mix. And I wouldn't go as far as saying we had written him off, but I definitely felt like we were kind of like, all right, he's going to be a guy on the outside looking in. He's going to get opportunities because of how versatile he is, and eventually people are going to struggle, and he's going to be one of the first guys up. But I feel like he made a strong case to say, all right, I deserve a start, at least one this first weekend of SEC play. So it was a big weekend for him. It was good to see. And, to me, I kind of feel like we're settling in a bit to what this Tennessee
Lineup looks like.
tiers, I guess, of what the lineup looks like. And who were kind of the first guys off the bench and that type of stuff. It feels like we're kind of starting to get a look at that.
I actually created one earlier today, just texting with someone, and I think that 7 starters will be very, very consistent, like everyday starters. And I think the center and righter set, Inslee and Chap. I think the infield is set, honestly, with Fisher, Keelan, Curley, and Marin. I think you agree there. And then catcher will rotate between. Okay, just catcher will rotate.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Peebles and Lawless, and Clark will DH every game, I think. And then left will be that's the ultimate coin flip for me, like any given game. I think Lawless, you'll just see get one catcher start a weekend. At left field, I think it'll be a true coin flip between Abernathy and Bargo. Both are lefty, so it's kind of tough. I think you'd obviously rather one be right-handed. Both are lefty, so we'll see what happens. But That's where I see it. And Bargo / Abernathy will be the 9 hole. Catcher spot probably 8, Marin 7. Top 6 or the top 6.
Yeah, no, I largely agree with that. I would maybe put Marin in the group with Bargo and Abernathy.
See, I just don't know how you bench Marin at this point. And he can't. He's not going to play the outfield. So I think he's been too good.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I mean,
And he's so good defensively too.
yeah, I
He
mean,
just
he is.
hasn't
I
really had
just
a downside so far.
no, I agree. I mean, the only downside would be that there hasn't been a ridiculous amount of pop in his bat. But you'd say the same thing about Bargo and Abernathy. Definitely more pop than Abernathy. And
Hmm.
I would say I do tend to agree that left field is more likely where you'll see those alterations, or those two alternate. But it just wouldn't surprise me if like Bargo gets to start at third next weekend, or Bargo gets the occasional start at third over
That's fair.
Manny. Um, and then I guess going to the next tier, to me that kind of feels like Newstrom,
Right.
Ariel, and Grimmer is kind of who I would put in the next tier.
Yeah, probably just Newstrom. I think Newstrom and Ariel for sure. Like Ariel will get SEC reps as a defensive sub. I think Newstrom is first off. Yeah, Bargo / Abernathy is first off the bench in the outfield, but I think Newstrom's definitely second. And Tony loves his defensive
Yeah,
capabilities in the outfield, both in right and left. So yeah, Newstrom's definitely in the mix too, but I just don't see him getting starts.
yeah, no,
Same with
I
Ariel. Yeah.
completely agree. But I mean, I would say the same with I think Rimmer from a pinch. I mean, his is more limited because I think it's just going to be pinch hit. Where both those guys could, Ariel will be a defensive sub, Newstrom could be a defensive sub. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm giving too much sway to a guy that I'm not sure has even started a game this season. But he's just been really good in his opportunities, and Tony's talked about him deserving more at bats. And he's a left-handed bat compared to those other two guys that are right-handed.
Yeah, I mean maybe. I definitely put him behind those guys, but yeah, he probably leads the others, like the Hunter Highs of the world. He's ahead of those guys. And like you said, anytime Tony's talked about him, he's raved about him. So I think he's a guy who does things the right way and has made the most of his limited appearances so far. Um, just hitting on Marin's weekend, Saturday was the big thing for him. Didn't actually start Friday, came into the game, but like I said, had that nose thing with that happened in Houston. So only got one AB Friday, didn't start. But Saturday, man, what a day for Manny at the plate. A career day for the freshman. 3 for 4, had 2 doubles and the walk-off grand slam. When you go back to Houston and you talk about a lot of loud flyouts Manny had, he had one as well in this weekend against St. Bonaventure today, I believe, in the second inning, Sunday. So I think the power was actually there for Manny this weekend, and that grand slam was an absolute no doubter from him. 2 doubles, just feels really consistent, can steal bases, great defensively. I think stock up for Manny Marin, even after a weekend in which he was a bit limited to start with the injury.
No, you're right for sure. And I was actually looking through some of his season stats. To kind of double check my vibes take a minute ago, and yeah, he has 6 extra base hits, with a lot. So it's
Yeah,
like, yeah, he is hitting for power. He's tied, but it's just, I mean, he's tied for 6 on the team in extra base hits with 2 other players with 6 extra base hits. It's ridiculous. They played
yeah,
16 games, and what is that? 8 players on the team have 6 extra base hits already. I mean, that's just
it's
it's
wild.
absurd. I'm looking at it right now. Um,
Hey, arguably the most underrated stat of the season far. Inslee 5 doubles. Just now saw that. Would
yep,
not have guessed that.
I'm looking at it right now, and granted, both these teams are good SEC teams that are maybe not great offensively. Arkansas has 3 players to this point in the season that have 6 or more extra base hits, and Vanderbilt has one with more than 6 and another with 6.
And you said
So
Tennessee has 8 with 6 or
Tennessee
more?
has 8, and Arkansas has 3, and Vanderbilt has 2. It's not like they're playing great competition either. So
No.
I mean, it's just
So
absurd.
it's all similar. Yeah. Um, Wild. Yeah. I mean, the power, it's insane. And it's not, like you said, the double numbers are great too. It's not literally just homers. Clark, Keelan, Manny all have 4 doubles a pop. Curley and Fisher have 3. So that's literally the same amount as Arkansas, right? And themselves.
Yep,
Um, the doubles. Sorry, it's doubles in meaning that didn't really correlate, but you got what I'm saying. And Inslee with 5 doubles. So the double numbers are there too. Stone has 3 doubles. Wouldn't have guessed that either. So yeah, power numbers there. Manny stock up is a theme of the weekend. Last individual wanted to touch on, not from a power standpoint, just from a consistency standpoint on the weekend, is Jay Abernathy. I thought made the most of his opportunities. Went 4 for 7 at the plate. Um, Only had 1 RBI, but I just think you see Jay Abernathy be a consistent, maybe fly under the radar bat for Tennessee at the bottom of the order when he gets reps. As a guy who can take advantage of teams doing the shift. He can hit down the third baseline really well. It's arguably his best trait offensively, and I think this was a good bounce back weekend for Jay.
definitely. He was just very steady. Um, and yeah, he's not going to do a ton of stuff at the plate that's flashy now. He might do a lot of flashy stuff on the base pass. And I thought it was great that Tony said it today because it's something I can't remember if I'd said on here, but I know we talked about it off air or texted about it some. Got to get Jay working on the bunting.
Yep.
He's got to be a little bit better bunting because and it's not even that like I feel like he has to do that. I mean, I get why he's trying to do it because he's so fast. It becomes such a weapon. It's more that like he's also a good hitter, so I kind of just hate the fact that it feels like he's giving up a strike a lot of times to try to get a bunt down that's been foul, or when he has gotten it down, it's been right back to the pitcher and he's gotten thrown out. So that'll be something that'll be interesting to watch over the course of the season because that's just another way that he can be dangerous and put a lot of pressure on defenses, which I think he just does. I mean, he hits the ball on the ground. My guess would be his ground ball rate is the highest on Tennessee's team.
Gotta
And
be.
while that's typically a bad
Yeah.
thing, but he's at least a guy that can put a lot of pressure on defenses while doing it.
Yep. Can leg out infield singles better than anybody, of course. So you hit a single to the third baseman, a little hard hit. My money's on Jay beating it out. So yeah, no, good weekend from him. And I guess I should also mention Stone Lawless. What a day he had. His
Yeah.
only start of the weekend came on Sunday. He made the most of it. A 2-homer day for Lawless was his only 2 hits on the day. So second and third homer for him on the season was hit. Usually we've seen Lawless start on Saturdays, so it was a little bit different. Tony didn't have a reason for it. He just liked the matchup a little bit better with Peebles against the St. Bonaventure starter on Saturday, which is an MLB prospect. And Selena, I believe was his last name. Guy can throw hard, but Lawless gets the start Sunday. We expect him to get a catcher start every weekend. And like I
Yep.
said, mashed a couple balls out the park and had another almost homer too to the warning track early on in the game.
Yep. He's the power and just the hitting as a whole has been really, really good. I mean, if we talked about it some, I think in the offseason, in the preseason, where I felt like his bat would be good enough to get some DH starts. And if Levi Clark hasn't just been amazing, I think it would
Unbelievable.
have been.
Yeah.
Like I feel vindicated in that take with how good Stone's been at the plate this season. It's just been that Levi's so good, you're not going to take him out, and he's really grabbed that job to this point in the year. And Cannon, I'll just say he didn't have a massive weekend at the plate, but did hit a home run. And the home run he hit, that ball was like in his shins. I don't know
Yeah.
how he got that one out, but yeah, Tennessee just really steady behind the plate right now. And Tony talked a lot about how much better Cannon has gotten defensively. And I think Stone, from where he was last year and where he was in the fall to where he is now, is a lot better defensively. So Tennessee just really solid at that catcher spot. And those 2 guys are going to be consistent role for Tennessee all season.
Some final notes from Tennessee at the plate before we get into some injury update stuff. Just another weekend for Andrew Fisher. Power numbers continue to be up. Had another homer on the weekend. He had 3 in the midweek. So going back to Arizona, he has 5 in the last 6 games. So that's pretty good. So the semi-cold start to the season power-wise is definitely faded. Levi Clark continues to do what he's doing. Another weekend hitting over 300. a staple, in my opinion, in the lineup. Don't think anyone would dispute that. The power numbers are there. He's a complete hitter. Dude's just already a dog for Tennessee. Dean, another solid weekend. Nothing crazy, 286, but did his part. And also, by the way, Fisher and Clark worked 9 combined walks. So you saw the opposing pitchers be pretty, for St. Bonaventure, not really throw them anything. They could mash out of the park a lot on the weekends. Clark led Tennessee in walks on the weekend. Fisher just behind. No one else had 3 or more. Again, like I said, Fisher 4 with Clark 5. Reese Chapman had a homer on the weekend, but no, he didn't. He had one in the midweek, but he had a hit in both of the first 2 games. Got subbed out early on Sunday, so his hit streak actually came to an end. He had a hit in every game until Sunday, so that 15-game hit streak snapped there on Sunday as Newstrom relieved him early, and Newstrom had himself a homer as well. The first career one for him in orange. I guess the only, it's not even a bad thing. I don't think he had necessarily a bad weekend, but Gavin Keelan came down to earth a little bit, right, Ryan?
Yeah.
2 for 9 at the weekend. So, his hot streak kind of cooled down just a bit. But like I said, again, the usual suspects for Tennessee are going to be consistent all season long, it seems, at least from what we've seen 16 games in.
And Keelan 2 and 9, 2 more walks, a hit by pitch. So, got on base, still got on base a lot. And yeah, no, the Chapman one was tough because, he only got 2 at bats and he hit the ball really hard in the second at bat too. He just hit it right at, I think it was the second baseman. So that was a bummer for him. But he continues to be as steady as can be, which is about the best thing that I think you can say about Reese Chapman. Or if you would have said one thing to me before the year and you said Reese Chapman as steady as can be, I think I would have said best case scenario for him in non-conference play. Don't necessarily need to see him do a ton of amazing stuff. Just need to see him be consistent.
Yep. No doubt about it. Big thing we all learned on Sunday after the game, talking to Tony Vitello, is that pitcher A.J. Russell, who has not appeared since the midweek game he started, was at North Alabama, Ryan. He started a little bit ago. Didn't pitch in Houston. That wasn't a big surprise, but then didn't pitch in the midweek. Maybe a tad bit of surprise. You figure, okay, maybe Russell opens the Sunday game. When that didn't happen, it was definitely surprising that he hadn't pitched yet this weekend either. Tony said that Russell suffered no setbacks. You can read about this on RockyTopInsider.com, but they're just going to exercise caution and take it easy with him moving forward, and can expect Russell to really get going probably in April.
Yep, that's and then, that's kind of the original time frame, was like first half of SEC play. And if I think the first 2 weekends of April would still be the first half of SEC play, with the first 3 SEC series in March. So that's what Vitello said. April was kind of when he thought it would be realistic for him to throw again. And he made a comment about, his throwing plan, I guess, trying to have him more ready to be a starter when he comes back. So I thought that was the interesting thing. Will he be? It seems like he should be pretty equipped, pretty built up already when he does return. Like, I don't think he's going to be starting from square one. And, he said if we needed him to come in and get 2 outs on Tuesday, we could do that, but we're just not really all that worried about it. So overly cautious, as they've been with a lot of these pitching injuries, especially, but injuries in general. And that's what I guess I'm most curious about, is what does it look like when he comes back? How built up is he? And will he immediately step into a starter type role?
Right. And the first series of April is the A&M weekend, which I think, like you said, was around the original plan for Russell to come back. Once Tennessee returns home after back-to-back road SEC series. So, yeah, I think it's a question mark right now. But like you said, I don't think once Russell comes back, fully into the fold, there will be any more waiting. It seems to me like once Russell comes back, it'll be all systems go. And in the meantime, it feels like we got a lot answered about Russell, though. But in the meantime, it's like, what is Tennessee going to do on Sundays when SEC play starts? Because, they kind of just started Tanner Franklin because they could this weekend, because he didn't throw on Friday, really. Only faced one batter. So I guess you could do that. Snead's always an option. Obviously, they've done Brandon Arvidsson and Tegan Coons with Sunday opener starts.
Started four guys on 4 Sundays to start the season.
So is it always going to be an opener role? I know you kind of asked Tony about it. He didn't really give much away, but it just feels like it's a true TBD every week, and whoever's maybe thrown less or not thrown at all will get the first crack. And I don't. The real thing I'm questioning though is it always going to be an opener role for Tennessee
Yeah,
on Sundays?
I think you'll start to see it be a little more expanded, and then some of it will depend on who it is. But to this point, it's basically been like, all right, you got 1 inning, you're coming back.
Right.
I guess Teagan was they gave him, he got 2 innings worth. Maybe it came
Yeah.
out to start the third inning against Arizona. I think you see a little bit more of that, but maybe pushed out where it's like, all right, at least unless things go haywire, we want to see whoever's starting get through the lineup the first time. And if they're pitching well, keep on giving them, the ball again. So I think you'll see it expanded a little bit more, but I also I'm not suddenly expecting whoever starts next Sunday to throw 5 innings either. So a
Yeah.
little bit of a middle ground, I guess.
I would say Tegan Coons is the leader of that group, the most likely to earn Sunday starts is what I would say right now.
Yeah, I agree. He feels the most, to my point of like, if someone's going to go out there and throw 4 innings or 3 1/3 next week, Tegan Coons feels like the most likely guy that's going to go do that.
Yeah.
Maybe they're Tennessee's hands. I mean, again, it's like you said, a lot of it's going to be dictated by what happens on Friday and Saturday. So if Tennessee's hand gets forced and Tegan Coons has to throw in one of those games, obviously that changes things. But yeah, I would think that's, if things went according to Tennessee's pitching plan on Friday and Saturday, I would think Coons would be the most likely option to start on Sunday.
There you have it. Andrew Behnke hasn't thrown since the Hofstra series. Tony Vitello said that, if he absolutely needed to get an out, he could right now. So probably nearing a return. Maybe
Said he
it's
threw
not.
on the mound, I think.
Yeah. So Behnke probably back sooner rather than later as a good bullpen left-handed arm for Tennessee. And then Hunter Inslee didn't play Sunday, but it was just a day off scenario as Tony Vitello tries to, get more guys reps, even subbed Reese out super early, as we mentioned for Newstrom. So you saw that there as well. I think he wanted to reward Bargo for what he'd done while also giving Abernathy a start, while also keeping Reese's confidence maybe high and trying to keep him on a roll a bit. It's more important to keep Reese on a roll than it is for Hunter, I think. I think that's a given. So it kind of was the only solution was to not play Hunter Inslee today to satisfy everything else.
Yep, it felt like a very much, you got 2 games left before SEC play starts decision of, all right, we got to get all these guys opportunities. Like you said, Tony said as much that he wanted to see Bargo keep it going for a third straight game, needed to get Jay Abernathy a start. So yeah, that aspect, it made sense. And yeah, and then on Behnke, I mean, I think it'll be interesting to see what it looks like when he comes back, because just of how deep this pitching staff is. And man, Dylan Loy's been so good. It feels like he's grabbed that top left-handed arm in the bullpen role.
I would agree.
Pretty
Loy boys rise up.
Loy boys rise. I mean, the Loy boys are rising up. He's just been incredible so far this season. So love watching Dylan Loy pitch. Looking forward to more of it next weekend.
The inventor of Loy boys rise up, if you will. When I always text him when Dylan Loy enters the game. This is my former roommate, and I texted him today, and he responded with something new I hadn't seen yet, and it is Loy, but instead of 1-0, he put 0.00, which is Loy's ERA. So, so it reads L 0.00Y.
Yeah, man.
I don't even know how you'd
it would
say
be
that.
great. It would be great if there were. If we need a third 0 in the Loy boys rise up. We only have 2. Like if he could do
Yeah.
L 0 dot and then the boys another 0 and then another 0 in there, that would be electric.
Yeah, no doubt.
We somehow need. This is probably physical. This is physically impossible, but we need Dylan Loy's ERA to be 0.01. So then we could do the 1 as the I in rise.
Oh, all right. Yeah, I can see.
But
it.
I mean, that's literally, there's no way he could give up an earned run and pitch enough innings, I think, to make that possible. But that would be sick.
That would work out. And it'd be the second letter in each word.
Gosh.
So, even better. Print the shirts. That's
Print the shirts.
That's the moral of everything. Print the
Tennessee
Lloyd Boys Rise
baseball
Up shirts.
Tennessee baseball social media. Tweet it out. Tweet out Lloyd Boys Rise Up.
You're sitting on a gold mine here, an absolute gold mine. Hashtag Lloyd Boys.
And this is great too because Dylan talked to the media on Tuesday, and you were telling him about the Lloyd Boys. And he said that his Xbox gamer tag growing up was like Lloyd Boy. Him and his brother was like Lloyd Boys something. I can't remember what it was after that. And that was talk about a vindicating moment. That was vindication.
Yeah. It's like a full circle moment. All right, let's run it then.
Let's ride. Let's go, Lloyd Boys.
Yeah,
I might print out business cards for people that say they're a member of the Lloyd Boys.
Hey, and some company can take this and run with it and do an NIL deal. I mean, it doesn't even have to be Tennessee.
No. And look, this company who does the NIL deal, if you want to cut a check and do a sponsorship of the
RTI Diamond Pass
podcast,
go right on.
We would love it. It would be a classy move, but we won't even make it. We'll give it to you for free because we're Lloyd Boys and we're all aboard the Dylan Lloyd hype train.
No doubt about it. Well, I think we covered every base here for Tennessee series sweep over St. Bonaventure. 36-3, Tennessee outscores the Bonnies. Sorry, Mark Kubiak. Bonnies weren't prepared to roll with the Vols this weekend in Knoxville. 199-35, by the way. Tennessee's outscoring opponents this year.
Pretty good.
Is that good? People are asking. Tennessee is back at it Tuesday against, was it West Georgia? Is that right?
West Georgia, yeah.
4:30.
I think it's their second year at Division I, so can't imagine they've had the best team.
Well, to prepare for another lopsided win, probably 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. Not a sixer this Tuesday in LNS against West Georgia. Final tune-up for SEC play against Florida. Night games Friday, Saturday, 1 p.m. game on Sunday in Knoxville as well. So we got 5 more home games before Tennessee hits the road for officially the first time this season. Yeah, it's going to be fun. And this team, a lot going on, Ryan. A lot going on.
No doubt about that. The good stuff begins now, and will be another fun 10 weeks as Tennessee baseball looks to defend their SEC regular season championship.
And they swept everything last year. If you want to follow Ryan, he's at rshump00 on X. I'm at Jack Foster Media. Of course, follow at Rocky Top Insider on all social media platforms and stay up to date with all of your Tennessee baseball coverage needs on RockyTopInsider.com. Can't watch the game? We got live update threads for every single game, at-bat by at-bat coverage, the best thread you can follow during a game. And for Ryan, I'm Jack. We'll see you next time.